Okay. Um, I am very, very pleased to introduce to everybody Michael Ridge. Michael, I didn't say this before, but um, you, we just, in many ways, I don't think at the same skill level, but I think that there's a lot of kindred spirits between you and I. I love to paint farms. I love to paint the outdoors. I feel like the people we bought our first house from, I mentioned this before, but they moved to Woodstock, and he was quite a teacher. He rented a bulldozer and plowed the top of some land south of Woodstock and built a house. Um, and I would go skiing from there, or trying to go skiing from there. Anyway, Vermont is a terrific place. I can see the connection between where you lived in Pennsylvania, Brandywine, to Vermont. There's just a lot of similarities. I thought the picture of that pig just I thought was terrific, and I don't know if we're going to get to see that, but that was among the things that we posted. So Michael has a very interesting history. We were talking about that before. He started out as a sculptor in animated projects for Disney and a couple of others. And that just sort of led him along until he got to the point where he wanted to go back to painting. And he's taken up watercolor painting. And I just think the paintings are just absolutely superb pieces of art. Great, great stuff. So with that, I would like to turn it to Michael Ridge. Michael, go get him.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Mike. And thank you for reaching out and inviting me to join you folks. I'm happy to be here. Uh, as Mike said, I grew up in central Pennsylvania. Went to college at Syracuse University and studied sculpture there. My career goal was always, I think, from a young age, probably from watching the Star Wars films when I was little. I always wanted to do special effects for film, and I loved monsters and fantasy type things. And so my goal was, yeah, I studied sculpture at Syracuse, and then after college, I wanted to stay on the East Coast. So my first job was at a toy manufacturing company, doing toys based on Marvel comics characters, music industry characters, and I was a mold maker for that company. And then my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, lived in Vermont, and we were trying to be in the same place. And I heard of a company in Vermont called Advanced Animations that did robotics for amusement parks, Disney, Universal Studios. So I applied for a job there and got that job, and worked as the lead sculptor at that company for 13 years. And I loved it. It was great. At a certain point, I sort of got a little bit burnt out on monsters. And the other aspect of a job like that is the work is never yours. If Disney wants you to sculpt Sebastian the crab from The Little Mermaid, it has to look like their character. And then you sign a non-disclosure agreement, and nobody's allowed to know that you worked on it. And so after a while, that got old, and I always had my own work I wanted to do. I always painted. Throughout all this, I was painting in the evenings. My high school art teacher got me hooked on watercolor, and so I decided to leave that sculpting job and focus on painting. So that's what I do now. And Vermont is a great place to do it. And like Mike said, it kind of feels like home. The landscape reminds me of Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania reminds me of Vermont. So it's all very familiar to me and close to my heart. Carol, when we were setting up, requested that I show you folks some of my sculpture. So I'm trying to think, how do I want to flip my camera around. There it is. So I'm on the other camera now, Carol. Yeah, here we go. So I have some remnants of, yeah, here it is. of the old job. So these are goblin heads that are at Universal Studios in as part of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Um, those were clay sculptures, and then the final product was silicone rubber with a fiberglass structure underneath. And these characters are part of the Little Mermaid ride at Disney. So that's the head of Sebastian the Crab, multiple facial expressions, and that's a cartoon turtle that's also an undersea critter from that ride. Um, and now on the side, I still do some sculpture. I have a small designer toy company or art toy company with a friend. So these characters are waiting for paint jobs.
Wow.
And this is sort of this format is a soft Japanese vinyl that goes on that body. And he has arms and feet that aren't right here right now. But so I still keep my hand in sculpting. But for the most part,
Oops.
Where would you like to be now? I'll just add this your face. All right, now you have a choice. Can't hear you.
okay, I'm back.
Yes, got it.
So I think I am a slow painter, and I want to let you all know that I've never done a demo before, so bear with me if it's rocky. But I paint slowly, so I probably won't get through a full painting with you folks. But I think I'd like to start by showing you sort of how I design my paintings and arrive at a composition. Here's the share button. So I'll show you. Here we go.
Here we go. Now I have to do.
Okay. So I keep an image library. Are you folks seeing?
Yeah, we see your screen.
My screen. Okay. So if I'm out and about and I see something that I think would make an interesting painting, I photograph it and catalog it here. So I have endless supply of my own photographs to make paintings of. Here's skies and clouds. If I ever want to add a cloud to something, I've got.
We don't see anything but gray at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just your desktop.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna stop the share. How do I show you my desktop?
You want the
Share.
virtual desktop or the desktop that you're going to work on?
Virtual desktop, my computer screen.
Well, you should have been able to do that with the share.
Hold on now.
Oh, good.
Oh boy.
Okay,
Lots of images.
here we go. So this
Nice.
is my image library. I'm on clouds right now, but you can see I catalog them. Here's landscapes.
Wow.
Where's the tractors? Endless supply of tractors. So if I'm out and something I like, I'll stop and photograph it. So from there, I bring photos into Photoshop. So this is a painting I think Mike was talking about.
So far, we don't see that yet.
I wonder why that's not working. Stop share. Let me try again.
Oh yeah.
There we go. Okay. So this is
The pig.
a farmer friend of our family's. His name's Anson, and this was his pig Clearwater, who was a huge pig. 500-pound pig. And so we were at his farm one day, and I took several photos of Clearwater and Anson. And out of these multiple photos, this was one, and I like the pig in this image, but you can see the background is all blurry over here, these windows. So, I start piecing things together in Photoshop. There's a different head. I wanted the head in profile. There's, I wanted the window frames sort of to frame it. Trying to think. There's a left hand with a rake. Not that one. Trying to think. There was the head and profile. Yeah. Sorry, I got lost in my layers. But basically, I take multiple photos and start piecing them together until I have a composition that I like. Oh, that's this nice clear window over here on the left comes from this photo, right? So this photo had a different pig in it, but I liked the window. So now I've got the pig I like, I've got the window I like, I've got the head I like, and I've added the rake with the hand. So I kind of piece all that together in Photoshop. And I think that then, this composition ends up being more interesting than any one of those individual photos. Compositionally, I like to sort of work in thirds. You've got this golden, your golden thirds. So I've got the human's head there, and I've got the pig's head there.
Michael, did you win any prizes with this one?
I have won some prizes. I don't know why
I'm not surprised.
my paintbrush doesn't seem to want to work, unfortunately. I wanted to draw on this for you folks. Let me see. No, not working. Come on, Photoshop. It's really not. That's unfortunate. I'm gonna close that and reopen it.
That's pretty.
Give me a minute here.
You got it.
And I will say that, I like to use the computer. I have a friend who does what he calls scissor shop, where he'll do the similar thing. It's basically collaging, and he'll print out various photos and cut them up with scissors and sort of tape and paste together. So it's a similar idea. Some people like to do pencil thumbnail sketches. For me, it's just Photoshop just seems to work. So yeah, like I was saying, I like to kind of place things. It is not working. I'm going to give up on that.
Yeah, let's see what your painting surface looks like.
Anyway, so I did the same thing with a photo that I want to do for you folks, which is here. So this is a farm over toward Waitsfield, Vermont.
Okay, your phone,
Not showing.
your other camera isn't on.
Um,
There.
Ah,
so, yeah, this is a phone over toward Waitsfield farm over toward Waitsfield, Vermont. And I kind of did the same thing with this. This one was almost in a spot that I liked. That piece of farm equipment there on the left, you can see him turning on and off, originally was way over here on the left. And I thought it looked better. I wanted to move it. I covered that one up and moved it closer. I wanted to see what it would look like with clouds. Ultimately decided that the clouds were distracting. There's some foreground grass that I thought might be interesting that I pulled from another photo, but again, thought that was distracting. But this grass here on the bottom right, I did want to keep. I thought that made it more interesting. And then, you know, my center of interest again is on that sort of where the 1/3 and 1/3 meet each other. And I think I've got some nice diagonals going with the mountains as well.
You know what you should do, Mike, is become an internationally famous Photoshop teacher. Because I can't do a bloody thing.
Yeah. Well, I'll also say that this, you know, I'm using the very basic skills. There's 3 programs that do the similar things. And these are just the basic tools. And I'm not working at this to sort of make a magazine ready advertisement. Like, you know, if I'm patching in the sky, I'm just doing it really rough just to see what it looks like, you know? But that is how I sort of arrive at my compositions. So now we can switch phones here. And I'll take you over to my drawing desk. So I've got it drawn out. Once I have my design, I do a pretty careful pencil drawing. And I also do a lot of masking, which I did before this afternoon so that you wouldn't have to sit around and watch me apply masking fluid. But, you know, the barn is masked off right now, as well as this tree line on the mountain. And then I've masked off this where the grass meets the trees as well. And that way I can paint my sky as quickly and as loosely as I want. And I don't have to worry about, you know, covering up my barn. And the same goes, you know, this edge here, I want it to be nice and crisp. And so when I paint these trees, I want to do this fairly loose. So I have masked this edge off, so I don't have to worry about, you know, cutting around that or anything like that. So I'm gonna get this. Let's see.
Woo.
I'm gonna put this up so you can see my whole desk.
You should tell people that you're attaching your camera to your light.
That is exactly what I'm doing. I'm attaching my camera to my light.
Now, is that a canvas lamp?
It is a canvas lamp, yeah.
Didn't you see the label, Debbie?
Oh, I asked because I figured a lot of people here might not know about canvas.
Well, it's upside down now. Is that what you want?
No. Um, how's,
Close. There we go.
and am I horizontal or vertical?
You're
You're
horizontal.
horizontal.
Okay,
You're
good.
kind of
Perfect.
in perspective. You have a vanishing point to the left of the screen.
Yeah.
Got it. And I wonder if I probably can't zoom in, but I can.
And now you're vertical.
Now I'm vertical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that fix it?
Nope.
Sorry, folks.
You already excused this, Michael, by saying I never did a demo before.
Yeah.
I don't know how to flip it so that it's.
Well, you had it flipped before.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Keep turning.
Keep turning.
There you go.
Yeah, it's still vertical though. He's turned the image, but
Maybe if I.
are you still there, Michael? I think we lost him. No. I think we lost your
Audio.
no, we what we lost was completely lost his computer. Or his, unless it's over here someplace.
Well, I see his face there, but I don't know if we've got the other camera going.
No, you're Michael. Oh no, he's coming back in. Here we go. Coming back in.
I'm back.
Okay, I'll put you on. Now you're still vertical though.
I must have hit a button wrong. So now
There
that's
you
You
are.
got it.
There you are.
okay.
Don't move it.
All right. Yeah, I've got to get it in here.
Okay.
There we go.
All
right,
right. Paint.
I'm not going to touch it.
Okay.
That's fine.
So I want to show you. I use a bead organizer for my palette. I like the tall sides on it. It sort of cuts down on contamination from one color to the next, and then
Wow.
the lid. If you put the lid on, the paints stay moist for a really long time. So I'm going to start with the sky here.
So that's your palette. What do you mix the paint in?
Oh, so I've got these old lids from other bead organizers that I've found just hold the paint really nicely. So I'll mix right on that.
You know, that's worth the price of admission.
Yeah, I used to use a palette, the flat white palette with the little trays all the way around the edges, and I just found that like my yellow would get into my blue, and then I would have green. Whereas this way, my blue stays blue, and if I want to make green, I do it over here. So I think the sky is just basically going to be cobalt. And I'll mix in a little bit of cerulean. And on a nice sort of flat wash, I'm going to get my paper wet first. Just straight across. And I'm going to paint over those background mountains. Because those are kind of bluish green anyway. So I think that if I get sky blue where those are, that's going to be fine. And I want sky down behind those trees as well, so that it pokes through the leaves.
Is your board on a slope at all, Michael?
No, I paint flat.
Okay.
Are you painting on arches?
It is arches. 140-pound arches. I had a paper that I absolutely loved, and it was Strathmore in their 500 series, Imperial Strathmore, cold press with like a slightly textured surface. But it had a lot of sizing on it, so it was a very hard paper with a lot of like water holdout. And they discontinued it. And I painted on it for years. So now, like, I think I'm getting used to the arches now. It's a little bit different. It's softer than what I'm used to. Need my and then on flat washes like this, I'm gonna see if I can even it out by rotating my paper. So I want that to be fairly flat and even.
Steve wants to know, is it hot press or cold press? Do you want to repeat that, Michael?
This is cold press.
Okay.
But as for that Strathmore I was talking about, they do make that series in a hot press, and I bought some, and I haven't tried it yet. We'll see what I think. So I'm going to blow it over.
I like the idea of using bead containers.
Yeah.
You also have a very quiet.
He's turned off his sound, no?
I don't know.
Um,
I don't think so.
I'm not loving the light colored patch that goes through the center of this, so I think I'm actually gonna wet my paper one more time as evenly as I can so I don't disturb the paint I put down. And I'm gonna go back in with some cobalt, but like with a lot of water in it, just to try and even that out. Ah. Nope,
It's watercolor.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
too much in my brush.
It's sky.
Right.
It's fine. We're seeing a pretty harsh glare from your light, but as soon as it dries, we've got a much better sense of what it looks like.
Okay.
Now, this is funny because I've heard this complaint from about arches before, that there's sort of inconsistencies in the paper surface. And can you folks see that light spot there?
Yes.
Where the paint reacted differently to the paper. It like didn't take there.
Had you used a kneaded eraser there or something?
No, I didn't do any drawing on the sky at all.
Uh-huh.
All right, I'm gonna blow dry this one more time and move on.
Is your sound off, or is that actually a very silent blow dryer? Sound must be off.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna try and lift some paint off to get these clouds. And I've never used this before, but just a cheap hardware store brush, I think, is gonna give me that feathery look that I want out of it. So I'll start here. Just want these to be sort of like wispy clouds.
Here's a question while you're making your clouds. What watercolor brand do you prefer?
These I use almost all Winsor and Newton. I was experimenting with some of the Daniel Smith paints that granulate sort of more than a lot of the Winsor and Newton do, just to try and get some like effects out of it. But for the most part, it's Winsor and Newton. Let's strategically put my clouds over those weird paper spots that are making me mad. But I mean, I think those are the clouds I was going for. So
Very subtle.
yeah.
Is there any, do you get brushes from all over, or is there a,
Yeah, this green one I'm using, I think, is actually an acrylic brush. It's really stiff, and so I find for lifting paint off, I can kind of dig into my paint to loosen it, and then a paper towel dabs it up. But for the most part, I use these Da Vinci Maestro Kolinsky brushes that come to a really nice point, but you can also get a pretty wide stroke with them, just in various sizes. So I think that is my sky. I'm going to do the background mountains now. And that's going to be, this is cobalt green, kind of has a minty green color to it. And I want it to recede into the background, so I'm going to make it cool. So blue, I'm going to add some cobalt. But I don't want it to, I want to knock it back a little bit chromatically. So because it'll mostly be green, I'm going to add some red. This is a permanent rose. So I think more green, something like that. Add a little bit of blue in there to sort of show. I don't want a lot of dimension in these. I want them to be in the background, but I want some of it to come forward more than other parts of it. I think that's about right.
so you're patient?
I think sometimes too, I would not use the blow dryer and just sort of walk away from it. and let the paint just sit on the paper and dry on its own. But we're trying to move it along a little bit. I think that spot there, if I blow dry it, it's gonna wanna, paint's gonna wanna do a thing. We'll do just a little bit of splattering on that to sort of indicate some trees. Oh, good on that. Yeah. So now I'm gonna peel off this strip of masking and we'll go for the back tree line there. This is gonna be a much brighter yellow or green than that mountain in the back. There we go. And I actually didn't connect that strip of masking all the way into the silo there, so that I was able to lift that strip up without disturbing the masking that was on the silo. So here's something I like to do, like, I see a lot of different green tones in this, and I kind of want to get them all, I want to paint this whole area sort of as a unit, but I want that color variation. So I kind of get all my colors ready beforehand. So I'm going to do Viridian and we'll do some hookers. These are my two favorite greens. And I do like this cobalt green as well. So we'll do that up here. But I do find that green out of the tube is often too intense, too saturated. So this is permanent carmine, which I've kind of switched to from alizarin. I think it stains the paper a little bit less. It might still stain, I'm not sure. And then we'll do, I think this is my favorite red here, this permanent rose, because it's very transparent and delicate. And then I'll do pad as well. And then on the opposite side, I'm gonna go, this is Arulin. I'm not sure how to spell that. Areolin yellow. So I'll give myself a yellow option. And then this is cad orange here. And then I'm going to go in here and sort of create these mixtures. So that all of these are available sort of at a moment's notice once I get into it. There we go. So, yeah, I see it's a cooler green up toward the top here. I think we're going to go with like the Viridian somewhere in this range. I kind of want I like it when my paint sort of mixes on paper, especially like for background type stuff that I'm not trying to be super detailed about. Um, watercolor likes to do its own thing.
Huh, for sure.
And I like to see it. Like whatever that is, it kind of feels like trees to me. That's sort of the texture that it made on its own. Uh, Now this area I'm seeing is more yellowish, more orangish. So I'm going to go up here to the hookers where it's mixed with cad. I guess that's my cad red there.
Cobalt green is a beautiful color.
I do like cobalt green, yeah.
No, it looks, is it opaque or is that just a, it looks pretty opaque.
This paint that I just put on.
No, that was a cobalt green.
Oh, cobalt. Yeah, cobalt is fairly opaque. Yes. I like this combo of hookers and cad red. It gives you like a real sort of olive color. And then here it sort of blends in to that background area. So I'm going to get some of that cobalt green and cobalt blue that I had before. A little bit of red. One thing I always find handy is to have a scrap strip of paper. Um, yeah.
Michael, you had a chat question here asking what brand of masking do you use?
That is also Winsor and Newton.
Okay.
Yep. And it's I always use the colorless variety. I've tried other brands like the Libio or something that starts with a P. And I find that I'm gonna throw some burnt umber into there. I see some dead pine trees in that general area. I find that masking fluid that has a tint to it is nice because it makes it, you can see it when you put it on. But I've also had issues with my paper getting stains on it from that tint. So I try to choose colorless.
There was also a question about the hair dryer. Is that a regular hair dryer, or is it some special? You turned the sound off, right?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, it's a regular blow dryer for hair.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
This is Kathy, just about the hair dryer. I think Zoom or somebody in that system has figured out a way to knock out some of the noises. That's why it goes quiet and you can still hear voices and it'll go quiet for those kind of hair dryer noises.
I'm kidding.
I mean, I don't know that they did it, but that's what happens when I'm teaching it. It just knocks it right out.
Uh-huh.
A question that Kathy, is this your question about what size do you usually paint at?
Nope, that's another Kathy. I'll mute myself.
It's okay. What size paper do you generally use, Michael?
I typically go bigger than this. At least one dimension is going to be the full sheet of paper. So, 20, 28, 30, somewhere in that range. It definitely went smaller for you folks tonight just to try and get more accomplished. So like the pig painting I showed you was probably 25 or 26 inches tall on its longest dimension.
Uh-huh.
So now here in the front is like a real emerald sort of green. So I'm going to go here with my Viridian and with the yellow mix. Do this right in here. And again, I've got this bottom edge masked, so I can really sort of be free with the way I apply this. Maybe introduce some, what is that, raw sienna? Get into some of the cad orange as well. I'm trying to, apply these colors while the edge of the previous sort of attempt is still wet so that they blend. Oh, and you know what? Because I'm talking to you folks and trying to move it along, I forgot that I often, there's nothing worse than getting green on your nice blue sky. So, yeah, I'll often cut out. That's just a piece of scrap watercolor paper. I'm going to do it because I really don't want green up in the blue. Just as a quick mask. Ah, see, I just splattered green everywhere. So I'm glad, I'm glad I put that masking down. Um, and now I'm gonna do this, the dark areas of these trees. My favorite go-to for that kind of, I mean, that's almost black, is gonna be, and I don't have it here, is gonna be carmine, the permanent carmine and viridian. That's gonna be super dark.
Kathy Armstrong asks, do you typically paint from top to bottom like you are tonight?
No, not necessarily. I think it's more like because of the way I mask things off with a landscape, it often ends up being what's the furthest back thing, right? So like in terms of layers. So certainly the sky is the furthest back, and then the mountains are on top of that, and then the tree line is on top of that, and then the foreground grass is on top of that, right? So I think that's typically my approach, although I've never really thought about it until you ask that question. All right.
So do you normally sell through galleries, Michael, or?
It's mostly like juried shows
Okay.
where I show my work. So yeah, the Vermont Watercolor Society has 2 shows per year. Uh, I'm a member of the New England Watercolor Society. Um, what else? I've been in the AWS twice now. But I often have pretty good. Oh, there's a Vermont show that's my favorite of the year. It's the Green Mountain Watercolor Exhibition. Um, and I always have good sales from that show.
Does the section of the Vermont Watercolor Society that you are involved with do you have shows also?
We do. Those are the hub that I lead. The hub shows are not juried, so it's uh, every member gets to show, which is nice. And then the and that's up to us to plan those. Um, and then the larger VWS has a juried show, 2 juried shows in a year.
Are there prizes for the non-juried ones?
No, no awards for those. That's really just an opportunity to show sort of more locally. And then one of the VWS shows in a year is an award show, and the other is not.
I recommend you join NFWS and enter shows and get awards. NFWS is what we Niagara Frontier Watercolor Society, known for a lot of spouses as NFWITs.
I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I'm always looking for new show opportunities for sure. And how many shows do you have in a year?
2.
Two.
Most of them are transparent watercolor, but every 2 or 3 years we have a water media show, and this particular spring show is water media, which allows painters to paint on different kinds of what did Debbie call it? She's got the right word.
Substrates.
Substrate. There you go. Can even be rice paper, which is cool, or
Aquaboard,
aquaboard, or you can use what's the
Yupo,
Yupo. Gary, thank you, Deb.
gessoed canvas.
Yeah. Waxed instead of being under glass.
Yep.
So all the things that people are experimenting with and enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to make an observation, Mike. While you're painting, every once in a while I flip over to your website to look at your other works of art. And I'm really enjoying the images that you've selected and of course your techniques for doing them. And it helps me to envision painting things that are of a similar vein and how you've gone about it and how you've, eventually produced a lovely painting out of maybe sometimes a quite simple image. Like, for example, the one called Faucet at Popham.
Oh, yeah.
So simple, but it captures your eye and you say, I want to do that. Then you did it and it's nice. So I flip back and forth between watching you paint and looking at your gallery.
Nice. That's great to hear. I love that. That's one of my favorite paintings, that Faucet at Popham.
Oh, yeah?
That one, it's sold. I painted it for the annual Green Mountain Watercolor Exhibition, and it sold like instantly.
I bet.
And went to Chicago, so I didn't get to spend a lot of time with it. But I like that painting. That's Popham Beach in Maine.
Yeah.
Is one of my favorite places.
Mm. So I didn't look to see where you teach, where you have classes.
I don't. No. Like I said, this is my first demo ever, and I have never taught. So I would love to hear feedback if any of you folks would like to share afterward with Carol, and maybe she could share with me, what you enjoyed, what you didn't, because I wouldn't mind doing more of this.
Well, you have paintings that require techniques, and some of us have tried, like grasses, for example. So it'd be interesting to know what your technique was to do those parts of the paintings.
Yeah, right. Well, hopefully, I'm gonna finish up these trees right now and get into the grass.
Oh, good.
But I do like to do. I feel like I like splattering. Feel like I feel like nature is infinitely complex. And for a painting, I don't think it makes a good painting to get in there and nail every single little like bit of shadow and like do it as precisely. But I still like to convey that level of detail. So I think often like a splatter is just going to add an additional level of complexity. Because this is grass, I'm not too worried about it, but I did cover my sky. And sometimes just clear water splattered also is gonna react with paint you've already got there and create some additional complexity.
Judy's comment is, I'm fascinated with your command of the color green. Very handy for Vermont life.
It is, yeah, especially in the summer. And our summer is so short, and I don't know if it's the same in New York State, but when spring rolls around, everything turns green like so fast because the growing season is so short, and just kind of takes over everything. Hey, I think that's good. I'm gonna call it quits and maybe blow dry it. So I think at some point I would go back in. I don't think I need to do it for you folks tonight, but um, add some branches where the sky is poking through on these trees. Just some little details. There's a few tree trunks over here that I wish I would have masked because they're light colored trunks, and I think they look cool. But I failed to do that. So I might try to lift out those trunks and put those in. So there's still some work to do on that tree line.
Would you scrape them?
What's that?
Would you scrape them?
I have never had luck scraping.
Okay.
Because it's good to do when the paint is still kind of wet.
Yeah.
And never seem to be able to catch it at the right time. But what I might do is this chisel brush that's the acrylic brush I showed you before. If I get it wet and just come in here and like carve, it's a little bit too thick. But I could lift out those trunks. But now I want to fix that because I don't like it. I think if I found if I if I got a smaller brush out of my toolkit, might work. Well, I mean, there we go. I just kind of had to make it skinnier. But yeah, I would definitely lift those out if I didn't mask them at the beginning. But I have seen people scrape successfully. I have a friend who uses the corner of a credit card while the paint is still wet and gets it in there and scrapes away lines. But I'm going to move on to the grass now. So I've got this edge that I masked that I'll peel off. And when I get to where the barn starts, if I keep peeling, I'm going to peel all the way across that, and that would make me sad. So I'm going to get just an X-Acto and cut it right there. So now the barn is still masked, but I've exposed that field line. But I definitely want to preserve that white hay bale and the red farm equipment. So now I'll show you. I am going to mask those off right now. So this is this is the Winsor & Newton clear masking fluid, colorless masking fluid. And this, I call this a junk brush. It's a Princeton Select, and they're inexpensive. And this is a size 0. They go much smaller than that even, and probably bigger too. But I use them for this specifically because masking fluid will kill a brush eventually, and you just have to throw it out. So my kid went through a Play-Doh phase, and these make excellent containers. So I never leave the cap off of this and dip directly in and out of it, because this stuff it'll dry out and sort of coagulate and get gummy really fast if it's exposed to air. And then I put some standard dish detergent. This is Anything Works Dawn, but I would go for clear because I would be hesitant to use a colored dish detergent. It might stain your paper. So I rub that dish detergent into your bristles. It'll save your brush a little bit. I'm going to mask off that farm equipment and the hay bale. And then there were some fence posts that I want to save. I think it was Deb who was talking about grass. It's funny, I love to paint grass. And it's also very problematic because if you look at grass, it's often a very thin light against the dark, because the blade of grass is catching light and making a shadow. And that's hard to do with watercolor. So, a couple options, you could go in and do, with opaque, like with gouache or acrylic, you could paint your grass on top of a dark background. Or you could reverse it in your painting and paint dark grass against a light background, but that never sits right with me because it's not how it works, right? So I have gone ahead and masked off with very thin lines everywhere where I want individual grass to show. So I have gone in here, and you probably can't see it on camera, but I've gone in here over the week and masked off all these foreground weeds. And then some of this, where this yellow strip of grass is, I've got that here, and I've drawn it out and I've masked it off. And what that's, and then, so then I can paint my grass, my big blotches of color, and then I'll peel my masking fluid off, and I'll have white strips of grass left that I can then wash over with additional washes of green. So that's my approach there. But, I said at the beginning, I'm a slow painter. And so that is, that kind of thing. Like, I think I spent 2 days drawing and masking grass, but it gives the effect that I want. So for me, it's worth it to do that. I'm going to go rinse these off, and I'll be right back.
Carol, is it possible for you to zoom in onto his painting a little closer
No, the zooming is all from his end.
from him? Oh, okay. Thank you.
He will be sharing a finished painting with us, though, and I'll include that in the email. Plus, it'll be the cover for the YouTube video of his demonstration. So you'll be able to.
If I lift it up closer.
There you go. There's the answer to your question.
Yeah.
I can't imagine spending that kind of time painting grass.
Something about it, I think it's like my childhood in Pennsylvania. I spent a lot of I lived in a very rural town, and my friends and I spent a lot of time sort of walking across fields and playing in fields. And when you're doing that, you're looking down at your feet. So I think the character, grass has all these different characters to it. It's, in the winter, it can be dry and brown. In the spring, it's like that fresh yellow green. I don't know, something about grass, I think, is important to me, to a landscape.
Well,
So I'm gonna.
it certainly is a beautiful. I mean, the whole concept of those grasses in front is very beautiful. But
Yes.
just requires tremendous patience and love.
It does, yeah. So this color that I'm putting down, I haven't used yet, but that's cobalt green deep. So it's a cobalt green but darker. And I'm basically just, my colors had gotten all sort of mashed together. So I'm basically doing the same thing that I did previously, just getting this set up.
Would you say again the greens that you're using?
This is Viridian, Hookers, Cobalt Green, and Cobalt Green Deep.
Thank you.
One, I forget if it was, I think there's an artist, Dan Marshall, who seems to paint a lot. I think that's his name. Paints a lot of Midwestern landscapes. And his colors are always very, oh, what's it, like desaturated? It's a lot of like, it's green, but it's very um trending toward gray or brown. Uh, and
Dean Marshall?
no, not Dean Marsh. Hmm. I feel like
Could
it's
you could you refresh the names of the reds also?
oh yeah, sure. This is permanent rose, carmine, permanent carmine. And those are really the only two I'm using for this painting. And those are the ones those are my go-tos. This is Cad Red, uh, Cad Scarlet, which I should remove that. I never use it. This is Cad Red Light, and this is quinacridone red. This I'll use. I feel like this is kind of an unnatural color, but I might use it for the barn. Always seems a little artificial, but it's kind of that barn red. Uh, the cadmiums come in handy for like florals and stuff. Oh, yeah, that's the cad there. And then we'll do the cad orange and the yellow. And then so I think I'll start with this light colored yellow that comes across. And just to be a little bit less primary, I think I'll use like a raw sienna, something like that. Yeah.
That's not a bead container cover, is it?
What is this? This is an IKEA tray for a cabinet, I think. Even like, these simple shapes, I do like to add other colors into it so that there's definitely variation as you go across. I think, if you add your darks, if you add a dark color into your lights, it sort of magically blends. That's one thing I love about watercolors. It does some of the work for you. And it does it, I do feel like nature and landscapes are just inherently chaotic, as is watercolor. So,
Good match.
yeah. Yeah.
So Steve looked up Dan Marshall, and that's his name, Daniel Marshall.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He has a February masterclass coming up.
Yeah, I really like what he does, and I don't think he uses any greens like out of the tube. I think he's always mixing a yellow and a blue or yellow and a black. But I do like the greens that he uses because they are very desaturated.
Yeah, that's the right word, I think, or muted. Beautiful work. Thanks, Steve, for that.
Let's see. I think that while let's see how quick I can do it. while this dark green is still wet, can I? Hmm. Yeah, I don't love that. I think I was trying to do, draw the grass up in, but it's just a little too mechanical. So I might just drop some water to that top edge and hope that it sort of not everywhere.
Question from Kathy Skirker. Do you always paint primarily dry on dry?
Um,
Or wet on dry, actually?
I suppose, yeah, wet on dry. Unless I'm trying to do like a flat, even wash like I did with the sky, where I made my paper wet first. Um, but yeah, I guess typically it's wet on dry.
That is what I meant. Thank you.
It's okay, Kathy.
I'm going to add some Viridian into that cobalt green. We've got all these layers in here of varying uh, lights and darks that sort of go across horizontally. I want it to be my darkest, right down here in the foreground. Because I do have grass masked off there that's going to play against that. So that's like the same as that was up in here. It's the Viridian mixed with the Carmine, I guess. That's not right. Hang on. We'll go back to this cobalt green that has a nice cool. It's cool. And then down in this foreground grass, the light really was hitting, the sun was coming across the road. And there are those patches of that real bright sort of emerald green. And even though that emerald green is coming from the surface of the blades of grass, I'm going to put some just in there. We'll get dark behind it. Mm. Almost purple. I think I want to see just a little bit of like cobalt down in there too. Some purple.
Our loyal Zoom watcher, Steve, has made a really nice comment, Michael, you'll appreciate. Really enjoying your skill with the green hue variations. Knowing which greens and reds to mix is an acquired skill I have yet to master.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Practice, practice. Tell him, Michael, it's all about practice.
Practice, yeah. You know, and color theory, I think that again, like your greens out of the tube are going to be really bright or sort of unnaturally saturated. So to knock it back, you would want to mix it with with your opposing primary on the color wheel. Right? So I think same with orange. If your orange is too bright, you can mix it with blue. And to knock your green back, mixing it with red is going to gray it out. And just a little bit, pushes it toward natural, I think. And then the other thing I want to do is here where, there's this foreground grass that I added in, but those same weeds were here. And I think because some of them are kind of brown, but then they're in shadow, it's kind of a strip of purple, like a light purple. So I do have, I think I'm going to add that there. And then I've got another run of that cobalt, real thin, that's going to go across the top.
Michael, have you been keeping track of the time?
I have not, no. What time is it?
6 o'clock.
Well, if y'all want to hang tight, I'm almost done with like the background of the grass, and I can peel the masking off.
That would be neat.
And I don't know how you folks, if you want to stick around, I'm happy to keep going, or if you typically call it quits pretty close to 6, that's fine as well.
We typically call it quits pretty close to the 2-hour mark. Yeah.
Okay.
And you said from the beginning you didn't expect to finish this. That's fine, but I really want to see the end of it.
Sure. No, I'll definitely finish it and send it to you folks, and you can share it. Yeah, we're almost, I think I've got the background of that grass dialed in pretty well to how I like it. I think I would do again a little bit of just clear water splatters, might tie things together. A little bit of this viridian and carmine.
Michael, I suspect that you never get this far in a painting in 2 hours.
No, I'm definitely rushing it here, but I occasionally do plein air. Like if it's not my favorite thing to do, but if I'm on vacation with my family and we're at the beach, I'll always take my sketchbook and
Sure.
That sort of develop different techniques for that than you would a studio painting. So I suppose I'm doing a little bit of that right now. All right, I'm gonna blow dry that, and then we'll peel off the masking and see what we got.
You really finished the painting with, except for the building.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a question for you. Not being able to watch to the end, I have a question on the palette for the buildings. Will you use the greens, reds, and yellows in different proportions for color harmony?
All right.
Did you hear me?
I did not, no.
Okay, let me repeat. There's a question.
Sure.
Somebody who had to leave. Since I was not able to watch till the very end, I have a question on the palette for the buildings. Will you use the greens, reds, and yellows in different proportions for color harmony?
Yeah, I would imagine like the dark red here that's under the eave, and on these front surfaces of the barn, I use the same carmine and viridian, but just in a flipped concentration, so it would have more red than green. But I would definitely make my dark red that way. And probably the roof is going to be a combo of my three favorite primaries would be the permanent rose, the Arulian, and the cobalt. So that I think the roof would be a combo of those three primaries to get a gray. And then these cast shadows, I would do as just a transparent cobalt across the top of an already painted roof.
Okay.
Michael, I have to tell you how impressed I am by how articulate your explanations have been.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's when I paint, I'm in my studio by myself. And I never talk about what I do. So I think I could go ahead and peel the barn. No, I'll leave that covered for now. A hardware store brush to get rid of those peeled up rubber pieces.
Now you have to hold it up so that we can have a last view.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot that it was a blue sky.
Yeah. I was waiting to see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Outstanding.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
So then that grass would be a matter of coming back in with more yellow greens. And
Sure.
I would wash over it and then kind of scrub it in so that it's less harsh. Like the bottom edges of where I've masked. I kind of want the background color to blend up into those. So I would definitely scrub those out and soften it. But yeah. Oh, even purple in my blue. That's the kind of thing that bugs me. Oh well.
Not bothered.
I'll have to scrub that out and make it part of the cloud. Yeah, so I think that's about as far as I'm going to get now, but I'll definitely finish it and send it along.
Terrific. Geez, just great.
Yeah, thank you very much
Very nice.
for all of us.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to join you folks.
It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Michael.
Sure, you're welcome. Thank you. Take care.
I'm now going to stop the recording.